Hey friends, in today's video, I'll show you how to research prospects as soon as they book in a call with you inside of a booking scheduling tool like TidyCal or Calendly, and how you can automatically push all of that lead information into Clay, and how you can then notify yourself and populate your CRM with all of this lovely research that you just got AI to do on your behalf so that you don't have to do this manually otherwise. So if you want this exact automation, all you need to do is go underneath the video wherever you're watching it. Underneath the video over here, you can just click on the link, and the link will take you to this specific file, which has the exact automation template. If you click on that, you can download the exact automation. And if you're too lazy to do this yourself, all you'll have to do inside of Make itself is you'll click on the three dots. You'll go into scenarios, you'll click on create a new scenario. And when you're finally creating the scenario, you can import a blueprint. And at that moment in time, you can basically just import this entire blueprint for yourself, and then voila, you just replicated what took me absolute hours to figure out myself. So if you want to do that, just copy and paste it by opting into the guide underneath the video wherever you're watching it. But if you want to build out from scratch, all you need is a Make account. Inside of the Make account, you'll go to scenarios, you'll click on Create a New Scenario, and the first thing that we need to talk about is this fat plus button, which lets us find the trigger for the automation. So when we talk about triggers, we think we're talking about what is the one thing that means that has like a domino effect on all the other actions. So in this case, you'll be a new booking from TidyCal. So in this case, I'm just going to use TidyCal. If you have Calendly or any other sort of tools, the chances are they'll have a connection here as well. So just type in Calendly. And for Calendly, you just need this watch events trigger. So you'll just click on that. Now, in my case, I don't use Calendly, so I'm just going to delete that. And I'm going to use TidyCal. And I'm going to watch new bookings. Now, why TidyCal? This is a slight tangent, but basically, in simple terms, this only costs $39 for a lifetime, so you don't pay a monthly subscription like you do with Calendly, and it gives you the same premium features as Calendly. And on top of that, TidyCal offers you a free migration, so it takes like 3 clicks to migrate all of your meeting links from Calendly into TidyCal. So if you want to take me up on that, just go to AppSumo, type in TidyCal, and you'll get it there. I'm not affiliated. I wouldn't get like any sort of commission on this, unfortunately, but I genuinely think it's a good tool to use. So essentially, now that we found the TidyCal new events that's booked, we need to select where we want to start this automation from. So I'm just going, this basically enables you to choose all the different options. So for example, you only want to run this automation from now on. You want to run it from a specific date in the past. Or in my case, I'm just going to do it with all the people that ever booked in a call with me because I want to test out this automation to start with. So this is the trigger. And if we right click on it, we can click on rename. And I'm going to type in trigger, new meeting booked. And logically, as soon as a new meeting is booked, we need to send it into Clay. So in this case, I'm going to click on this plus button. I'm going to type in HTTP. And I'm going to select make a request. And over here, I'm going to go into Clay now. So if I go into this fancy Clay table here, all I need is to click on Actions and Import, and I'm going to type in the word webhook. And this webhook should be generated on the right-hand side. So this is basically like a normal URL link. And in simple terms, this is the URL link where we're sending all the information from TidyCal about the prospect so that we can research based on that information the prospect a bit further. So this is where the data from TidyCal is going, or from Calendly, whatever tool you're using. And then the method that we're using to transfer the data is post, because we're kind of posting it. We're like sending it to them. So that's like posting it that way. But alternatively, with a couple of automations, if you watch this channel, subscribe, like, and do all of that fancy stuff, you will see a lot of the time we will also use the get function. And getting data is when you're getting data when you're pulling it from Google Sheets, for example. But in this case, it's post. Don't worry about it. Body type, whenever you're working with most things and whenever you're working with Clay especially, will always be this application form URL encoded. And the fields, we only care about 2 fields most likely. I'm going to leave them blank for now, and I'll explain in a second why. And in the meantime, let's just right-click on this, click on rename, and type in action, push, lead data to Clay. And then we'll say OK. At that moment in time, we can click on this fancy save button at the bottom of the screen, and we can click on run once. Now, we want to run once just to get some data from the trigger section inside of TidyCal so that we have some data to work with for this module when we pass the data across. So in this case, for us to pass the data across, we will use the fields. So one field will be one column inside of Clay. So this will be one header inside of Clay. So in this case, I'm just going to use the emails and the full name of the person that books the call with me. So here in the search items, this will reference all the items from TidyCal. So you can see the TidyCal items here. I'm going to use the email address of the person, and I'm going to use, in this case, the name of the person. So this is Tahir, right? At that moment in time, we can click on save. And this, in theory, should now, if we save it, this in theory now should be pushing data into the Clay sheets. If this works well, let's just delete the test data that already arrived because that's irrelevant. And right now, what we can do is just basically click on run once and just see what happens. Hopefully this transfers the data just like we expected into the Clay table. So let's see, I'm going to run it once again. I want to run it more than once just so that we get quite a bit of data to work with. And in this case, yes, we have 4 people whose data arrived. So let's just open up the webhook. So let's click on the webhook. And yes, we can see, so the email arrived and the full name arrived for this one. Same for the second one. Same for the third one. And then same for the fourth one as well. And this is great. So for this one, the email, we want to map it against the email column, right? So that it goes here. And for the full name, we want to map it into the full name column. Full name column. Now, if you opt into the guide, which I told you about at the start of the video, you would get this exact Clay table. And basically what it does is as soon as you import the email of the person, it grabs their company URL. So in this case, like it would ignore it if it's Gmail. But in this case, it will basically scrape their website. So if I just show you quickly here, let's just try save and run 4 rows. It should basically scrape their website, scrape their company description as well, I believe. So let's just see. And all of these actions should work. And they will research the prospect fairly well. So in this case, it tells me what the company sells. In this case, I think it's like research services. It also gives us company description, who they sell to, what problems they solve, their company type, and so on. And the only reason that this didn't work so far is because my API key changed. So that's why I just need to refresh it so that it works for all of them. So let's just try. And essentially, this will trigger a series of actions where we research the person as much as we can. And we already know right now, if we were to rerun this automation now, once again, if I was to press run once again, this should now trigger this entire flow to happen. So you can see this fifth person arrived. It gives us a bunch of like people's names, and it basically gives us all the people that booked in the call with me, scrapes their website, pulls out their company description, pulls out who they sell to, what the company type is, what their target industries are, what are the customer pain points most likely, so what are their customers' pain points? So you can say, oh yeah, I see you were selling into the e-commerce space, and their like headaches are things like their average cart value is too low or whatever it is. Because I'm so nice, I just spent the last 5 minutes tidying up this table, so now you can see step by step what we're doing. So we're scraping the website, we're identifying the ICP industries, we then check if the company is B2B, we then check their target industries, we then check their pain points their product solves, we make sure that I know who their ICP is as well, and like who is their ICP here, right? Who is their ICP? And then we identify what their unique selling point is. And then finally, just for a bit of fun, I sometimes use this to see if they run Google Ads, And also in this case, if you're a cold email agency or like a cold email nerd like myself, you want to check if they also have DMARC on their website. And DMARC is basically this nerdy technical term, which I don't really understand fully, but from my limited understanding, it basically implies that the company does cold email outbound, or at the very least, they have the prerequisites of setting up like a specific technology on their website, which improves the chances of their emails landing in the inbox. So if you don't have DMARC installed, the chances are you can call them out and say, hey, you probably need to install DMARC if you are to land an inbox of your customers. So this is essentially how you would do all of this research. And then the final part is you will click on Add Enrichment. You will choose HTTP API. And this is one of those like really annoying things because a lot of the time, this is not available on the $149 plan, if I'm not wrong. So you need to be on the Explorer plan, which at the time of me recording this is $249. You will click on Browse Templates. You will, in this case, you will just have to look at what I'm doing. And then that's the only way that you can really basically push this data into Clay, and you will copy this formatting. So like start with this funny looking bracket. You will use this formatting. So once again, if you're watching this video right now, you can literally screenshot what I'm recording, feed it into ChatGPT, and then just pass as many variables as you want across. So in this case, I'm going to also give it things like key, and then let's say you just want the ICP part, ICP. But either way, that's basically how you would go about it. In time, you're probably wondering, okay, how does this HTTP API thing work? And that's a great question. Thank you for asking. And in simple terms, you will basically click on scenarios. You'll create a new scenario, and over here, you will your trigger will be a webhook. So it will be triggered when webhook receives data. For that, you'll just add a webhook here. So like research from Clay arrives here now, and you will basically copy this URL link. And this is what will be known as the endpoint in Clay. So basically, Clay's data will arrive to this specific URL, and then we can save and run. But before we save and run, we need to make sure that this is switched on. So we'll run once, and then we'll save and run 6 rows. At this moment in time, this should give us like a 200 status. So if it gives us 200, we know that this data has been transferred. And straight away in the webhook here, in the bubble, we can see all the research coming in. So we can see the email, the full name, the USP, and so on. And this will be a second scenario. So in other words, we would need to have a separate automation for this, where the trigger is research data arrives from Clay. And then the next step from that could be like typing in, I don't know, like adding it to a Google Sheet, right? So Google Sheets, add a row, we would have to select a specific Google Sheet. So in this case, let's say we want to add it to, I don't know, let's see what random Google Sheets we have here. Test. Say we want to add it to this random Google Sheet, we can add the first name, we can add the last name, we can and any other variables that we researched from Clay. So we can just map it into a Google Sheet. And the same way we can push the data into tools like HubSpot or whatever. All it will take is for us to type in HubSpot. And then over here, it's very self-explanatory. Like you can add a contact, you can create a contact, you can add it as notes and so on. So you can like add a note. Alternatively, if you want to avoid this headache altogether, because it's like this is where it just depends on what CRM you're using, you can also click on add enrichment inside of Clay, and you can just use Slack and send message to a channel inside of Slack. And the way you'll do that is you'll type in a bot name, so like Tim's Clay Research Nerd, and then we'll select the channel. So let's say we select general, and then we can basically save and run, and this will be populated into the Slack channel with all the research within a couple of seconds. Oops, it says missing input because we forgot to select any sort of data. Let's say we just want to send the technologies that we found, which obviously, like, if I had a bit more time, I would pay a bit more attention and like send the real message. And you can see that this was sent. Received it, voila, it's inside of my general channel where we basically got all of these random technologies. And that's how, like, over here, once again, if you spend a bit more time, you can even input like a summary of like, hey, here are the meeting notes, here is what you need to know. And then more than that, you can then have a separate scenario inside of make.com to push this data into a CRM or whatever other tool that you want to send to. Now, I hope you found this video informative. If so, please give it a like. On top of that, if you haven't checked out Unlock Clay just now, by all means, check out unlockclay.com, which teaches you how to learn Clay from start to finish, so you can finally stop putting it off. It only costs £100. We also have a course for £200, which teaches how to use Clay specifically for staffing agencies and recruiters. If you want to take me up on that, that costs £200, as I just mentioned. Other than that, do drop a comment down below if you have any questions on Make, if you have any requests for videos, anything of that sort. Make sure you subscribe to the channel because, once again, it really helps so that I can continue recording such high production, high value videos, hopefully. And other than that, I'll see you in the next video. I hope you enjoyed this one. And make sure that you opt in the guide so I can finally capture your email address. And the way you can do that is by going underneath the video and clicking on the link, which will give you access to all the Clay table templates, all the automations that we talked about in this video, so that you don't have to go through the misery and trial and error of doing this yourself manually otherwise. Anyways, I'll see you in the next one. Hope you enjoyed it. All the best. Cheers.